Alright, so we're going to be talking about carving faces. Now, we're not going to go through the whole thing. We're going to go through a main issue that I've been seeing a lot of in beginners, and certainly that I had an issue with. And that is generally when most wood carvings, you can start by outlining the whatever you're going to do, and then you kind of just round it off, and then you basically have your 3D shape. Now the problem is if you do that with a face, you end up with a very flat face. And it'll work for tiki types of faces, certain styles, but if you want a more three-dimensional face, you're really going to have to be thinking on a few different planes and dynamic sculpture. So the main problem and what we're going to be talking about is the nose. Okay, this fellow has a very big nose, as you can see, and I would definitely suggest aiming for a more caricature nose. You know, learn it first, learn how to get past the flatness, and then maybe you can tone it down if that's what you'd like later. So anyway, basically what you want to do is that, you know, your first sculpting is not going to be to do the eyes or, you know, the mouth or really anything except for the nose. That you're going to want, you know, basically a block with a triangle on it, right? And if you're starting from a block like this and you want to get to a face like this, you know, you have a lot of wood to remove. You're going to just look at him from the profile. You can see, you know, the wood was going like this, so there's all these cuts in here, you know, that had to happen before his eyes were even made. So we're gonna do that real quick on some basswood, and I'll show you how to rough out most of this stuff. So again, we focus on the nose, a little bit of the brow line, and maybe a little bit of the mouth. And I don't sketch my stuff out. I enjoy having there being a creative process, you know, kind of discovering what it's going to be like along the way. Make sure our knife is nice and stropped up. Alright. Okay, you know what? We're actually going to... Yeah, let me show you this first. Practicing faces, a good way is to go into a corner. And, you know, this, one of the reasons especially is because, like I was just talking about, you have to dig out all of this stuff just to start the feature. But if you start on the corner, it's kind of already basically, you know, you do that and then you're already at a rounded space where you can put your eye, instead of trying to dig him out of the middle of that. Especially with noses, it's a good place to really get a feel, because when you start with a corner, you already have you know, all of this taken away, and you're only having to do this very small space as far as taking back things, taking them in, removing material. So, you know, you're just going to want to do these little V stop cuts at first till you get them figured out. This size of wood, we're not going to get his whole face in there, but we're just doing a study, so it doesn't matter. And when I do these studies, especially on the corner, I'll just go ahead and do one on every corner and use up that wood. It's important to do studies. You know, sometimes maybe they'll be in condition to show off or sell later, but if you go into it with the idea that it's a study, you'll approach it a little differently. You know, you'll be more likely to take chances, you know, make mistakes, learn things, that sort of thing. Okay, so as you can see, we're really bringing down everything except for the nose right now. Okay, that's all we're doing. Now, you can see already, you can see from the profile that we're doing pretty good here on getting a face, a three-dimensional face. This is not the best basswood. I got this is a cheap basswood that comes with unfinished edges, and it's got some rough spots in it, but so it's good for practice. Okay. Alright, let's see here. Alright, you can already see that that's pretty good three-dimensional stuff going on, and I'll just put in a little bit of the mouth there. Okay, see, most of you guys already, you could take this and run with it. Now that's only profile. You would have to, as you can see from here, you know, you'd have to bring in his nose a bit. And we'll go ahead and do that. And this wood is sketchy. This is almost like Tupelo basswood. Yeah, that side does not want to carve. Alright, so what I'm doing right here is basically thinning up his nose, especially the top of it. We'll leave the base almost that shape. Alright, then we're going to do a little cut in there, a little V-cut, whether it's with a gouge or you manually do it with 2 cuts with your fixed blade knife. Yeah, there's something wrong with this side of the wood over here. Alright. Okay, so now we've got most of his face in there. You can see he's got a very dynamic look going on. Obviously very rough. So I think we'll take him a little bit further. You know, I'm gonna do eyes in another video and all that sort of stuff, and just to finish him off here, we'll give him a bit of a beard. Boy, this must have been right next to a knot. Okay. Right, and then so, and if also if you wanted to round his face a little more, you would go in there and dig these trenches out, because obviously he's not a blockhead, and that would give him that kind of border and roundness to his face. Alright, maybe give him a little bit of a cheekbone there. This wood's awful. It's how embarrassing. I promise my my blades are sharp. You can see them on that side. Alright, and then where would we go from there? We'd give him a beard. Yeah, and I'll do another video on beards too. This is kind of the basic, but then there's some other dynamics you can get into as well. I say dynamic mostly based off of Bernd Hogarth's use of the word dynamic. And if you're a sculptor or any kind of artist, really, check out Bernd Hogarth's Dynamic Anatomy. It's a really wonderful way of teaching how to draw, how to think about it. People, you know, sculptors, wood sculptors, their biggest thing is thinking in 3D. I'm sure you've heard of it before, and humans are not set up to do that immediately. It takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of thinking. You know, you start with being able to model and reproduce a cube, and then, you know, kind of go from there. Okay, so there's a bit of a little face there. You can see he's pretty torn up. But again, what we're focusing on is bringing all the levels down except for the nose. Now, when you're doing these corner ones, you know, it's easy to get spoiled.